blah, 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 blah. Hello, super friends! So a couple of weeks ago, I received a challenge from my friend slash cousin, Brittany, to do this redraw thing where I draw a picture that I had previously done, but do it new and with all of my new skills and stuff. And let me tell you, it was so much fun. If you want, you can totally check. I'll have to talk to editing Annie about that. Anyway, in the videos, I also asked for any challenge ideas. I've been totally all into this lately on YouTube. I've been watching just about every challenge video I can find. I put out the challenge to you guys to put a challenge for me down in the comment section. And boy, did our super friend Rachel come through. She suggested we do this video, which is to create a spider persona for myself. Spider Annie, if you will. And of course, this sounds like the perfect challenge for me because Spider-Man, as you all know, is a very popular superhero, but his other personas from different universes, alternate universes, have also gained a huge amount of popularity, especially lately. One of my new all-time favorite movies, the critically acclaimed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, featured a bunch of different versions of Spider-Man that come from different areas and different styles and themes and stuff like that, but they all have their own different version of what it means to be a Spider-Man. And a lot of them actually aren't even named Peter Parker, so that's really interesting. So this seems like the perfect idea to do, to take an afternoon of drawing and just figure out if I were bitten by a radioactive spider, what would my superhero persona look like? So let's jump right in. So my first instinct in drawing anything related to Spider-Man is to create a really radical pose, which I'm not entirely comfortable with, but since we were just drawing and kind of figuring out, I decided to just go with it and experiment around and see what we could do, and that pose came out pretty well, so I went directly from that into the costume design. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the traditional Spider-Man kind of costume, but since it's me and I wanted to mix in a little bit of Super Annie in there with it, I decided to make my color scheme blue and blue. I really like the combination of the darker shade of blue with the lighter shade of blue, and I gave myself a little spider logo and then did white webbing on the darker blue for the gloves and the shoulders and the belt and stuff. And I really liked how it came out. The only thing that I didn't really like was the pose at first, because when you're too close to something, sometimes it just looks like crazy. So I decided to step back from that and do something a little bit that I was more comfortable with, just to show off the costume and the finer details. So I did this typical superhero standing pose and went ahead and got in a little bit more detail on the spider logo that I created for myself and just the overall look and feel of it. If this was a character design, like a pitch idea of some kind, I wanted it to look really like my style, but also totally represent what Spider-Man was all about. So we got in a few of the different elements of my own personal style into the Spider-Man costume. I really like the way that I put white lines outside of all of the different elements of the costume. So the gloves have a white border, the boots have a white border, and then the belt as well. And then I also put in a little bit of a shoulder thing, which is keeping in the traditional Spider-Man style. With the spider logo on my chest, what I decided to go with was a pretty straightforward design. Spider-Man usually has the two facing up and the two facing down for the spider legs. But to keep with that white accent, I put white inside of the spider logo, so it's two kind of spiders bits. You've got the head of the spider and the abdomen, or the thorax. I can't remember my, AP biology stuff. Anyway, doesn't matter. Two bits of the spider and then the legs on the outside. And then I really wanted to stick with those white highlights because they really pop against the dark blue. So I did my best to do those really interesting outlines, because that's a lot of things to think about. You can't just draw a bunch of white lines and call it a day. You gotta think about where the body shape is going and how the lines would lay on the costume. So I did a couple of tries on that and kind of went with the best that I had. And then to finish it off, I added in some shading like I usually do, and I went ahead and did a background. For some reason, I always picture Spider-Man, you know, he's in New York, so often I see a lot of brick. So I decided, since we were in a standing pose here, to just do a brick wall with a little bit of like a border on the bottom and then just cement. And to keep things real simple on myself, I decided to use my cool little line tools and just add a little bit of detail on top, really light, to accentuate the bricks, but not make it stand out too much so that it became a focal point of the background. At this point, I decided that I actually really liked the pose and everything of the original sketch that I was trying stuff out on. So I went back and decided to clean up the lines a little bit and kind of turn it from a sketch into more of a concept. Which, if you know, going back and forth on a drawing like this, trying to clean up the lines takes a significant amount of work, because when you're rough sketching something, you kind of just get the block shapes out and you call it a day when it gets, you know, the kind of concept of the pose. But once I decided to go back to, you know, the cool Spider-Man-like pose, the Spider-Person pose of, you know, sticking to a wall, I had to think a little bit more about, you know, which way the wall was laying and how the stickiness would happen on the fingers, and then fix up all the lines so that it wasn't that rough, you know, sketch type style, and it was more the solid lines that I'm really used to and that I really like in my style, the really cartoonish outline and the black against the different colors. And then I went through and went ahead and did the coloring. I fixed up the coloring, and then I did the webbing on all the different things. And then came the hard part, which was the shading. I don't know if I've ever tried to draw something with this interesting kind of shading, so it took me a couple of tries. And even the shading on the wall made it really, you know, not look like it was up against a wall. I think that in retrospect, I probably could have turned the background or the subject to get that a little bit more accurate, but it worked pretty well for this concept. After this, I wanted to go back to my original pitch pose, kind of, and see what I would look like with the mask off. It's been a while since I've drawn myself in my character style. I should probably practice that a little bit more, but I kind of just turned that mask, the spider mask, into a hood, and what I did, because this is digital art, is I just saved it and then erased everything that was on that layer and redrew the face and the hood bunched up on the shoulders and put in the different colors and fixed everything from there. So that makes it actually really cool. I'm super jealous of this, or little Annie, I should say, is super jealous of this, because that made things really easy. The only thing that wasn't easy is I couldn't figure out how to draw my face to look like my face. I don't know if all y'all artists out there have ever tried this, but like, it's surprisingly complicated when you don't have your own mirror in front of your face. I probably could have done that, but I simplified my face a little bit and just kind of stuck with some basic block shapes and did my hair and called it a day. And now with all of these three concepts side by side, I really like how this turned out. These are my superhero colors, is the blue and the white and black. So turning this into a Spider Annie actually looked so amazing, and I am so happy to have done this challenge because, I mean, just look at her. It looks awesome. And there you have it. Oh my goodness, it was so much fun to do, guys. This was an absolute blast. This was a totally brilliant idea, so thank you so much to our super friend Rachel for submitting this idea. Now, you all know I totally want to make myself a Spider Annie costume. But my sewing skills are very far from anything else that I know how to do, so that's gonna be a little while before we try and do anything like that. Again, if you have any other drawing type challenges or maybe storytelling challenges, go ahead and put those down in the comments below, and we'll see what other cool stuff that we can make happen. Don't forget to also like and subscribe, and if you want to see even more exclusive awesome content, hop on over to our Patreon page and support us over there. And you can sign up to join the Fearless 9. Thanks for joining us for this week's Superhero Saturday video, and we'll see you next week, super friends. All right, we're gonna find Ranger Blanky's favorite hiding spot. We were doing some cleaning, and I think I found him. Hey, buddy. Is your head up against the candle? Hi. Oh my gosh. He's so cute. His little paws all stacked up on top of each other. Okay. Have a good night.